I kind of had my first realization when I was around 13, and I realized things were harder for me than it was for other people. I had a lot of sleep issues. I thought, I was just a hyper kid, but I definitely had the startings of insomnia that really started to affect my education. I would get sad a lot. I'd have a lot of trouble focusing and a lot of negative thoughts.
Lem Gamble is in a much better place now, a third-year college student studying music, playing on the lacrosse team, and finally able to put her difficult adolescence into perspective. She says her struggles back then were made worse by a parent who did not understand.
He didn't understand that my brain was working against me. He took it more as I wasn't applying myself. He took it more as I needed to heal myself with the power of positive thinking, and he put that on me.
That's one of the things that I hear when I'm working with adolescents is they'll say, well, my mom doesn't understand, or my dad doesn't care.
Dr. Charma Dudley treats teens with mental illness, a serious health problem that's more common than you may think. 1 in 6 children has a mental health condition. The numbers can be higher among African Americans.
Black people in general have been exposed to trauma in America. So when these teenagers are seeing images of Black people dying by the hands of police or being treated unfairly in this country, it creates even more anxiety and depression.
Anxiety and depression are common among all populations. Other conditions widespread among teens include attention deficit, eating, stress, and obsessive-compulsive and post-trauma disorders. All can be treated with therapy and, in some cases, medication. But too often, the generation gap stands in the way.
There are parents that say, kids will be kids, suck it up, it's not that bad. I had to deal with that when I was a kid.
A lot of my mental health issues make me feel like I'm being dramatic.
That is something where there's a gap between parents and kids having really good conversations about stuff like that.
I just don't think they get it.
That generation gap is an ongoing topic of conversation when Amber Siri and 5 of her high school classmates get together each week or so.
We started something that we like to call Therapy Thursday about 2 years ago, and it really just started one day because one of us was upset about something that had happened that day, and so we all met up after school just to talk about our lives and what was really going on with each of us.
The friends say that even if none of them ever is diagnosed with a mental health condition, their everyday stresses are troubling enough to benefit from the meetings.
It's let me open up and get my emotions out and just let them know how I'm feeling.
The topics run the gamut, with one main culprit in that troublesome gap between parents and teens.
I think the biggest difference between our generation and theirs is social media, because social media sets so many standards that they did not have as teenagers.
It's such an unrealistic expectation for what we're supposed to be and what we have to be if we want to be successful in a world like today. I wish my parents would stop saying it's not that big of a deal, you'll get over it, social media is stupid. Yeah, we know that.
So while I do feel that parents do relate, and they do try to sympathize and understand, I think it is just different because, we have to grow up and kind of find ourselves while also being led by social media.
The friends share the same struggles: worries about college, anxiety about the pandemic, sleepless nights before tests in school.
I wish my mom or dad would say to me that I'm not alone in my struggle, because I think a lot of the time I think that whenever I'm having anxieties or whenever I think I'm not enough or that I'm not going to succeed.
It would be helpful if my mom said to me something along the lines of, if you mess up, it's okay. I know that they love us so much. We all have really great parents, but it is tough because it's just something that they never had to grow up with.
It is a full-time job connecting with your kids and checking in, giving a health check.
Elle is second oldest of Hallie Snyder's 4 children. Hallie acknowledges how generations sometimes struggle to reach each other and maintain this critical connection.
Often it's a misunderstanding, but sometimes, the joke is when your kid turns 13, they just go to their room and shut their door. I just think, sometimes they don't want to share information with us. They're not ready to.
They were able to just live and make mistakes and feel okay about making mistakes because mistakes are good. And that's what's so hard about our generation is that mistakes aren't good anymore. And it's really tough to deal with the anxiety that we all feel.
Why are these kids depressed? Why are they so stressed out? Why is our suicide rate skyrocketing? Because they're terrified of stuff.
I've gotten very hurtful things posted about me or sent to me in a video clip just going on about rude things that had nothing to even do about the person that I was, but about how they felt I looked. And this is what I always try to tell my parents. They say, in the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And I say, it sucks so much, and I know it doesn't matter, and in 10 years I'm not going to care about it. But I'm in high school now, and in high school right now, in this moment, it does matter.
But it takes these conversations, and this is why I'm sitting here having this conversation, because more parents like me have to be able to say, this is hard, right? These are hard conversations.
Every parent wants their kid to be okay, but it's that parent's job to recognize when they're not okay. And sometimes even with teenagers, you have to be the one that says, I don't care how old you are, we're going to make an appointment.
Lemlem reached out for help, and now through therapy and medicine, she's thriving. She's come to understand what many parents don't, that mental illness is as real as any physical illness and deserves the same attention without blame.
If you think of it more like, how would I treat a person who injured their arm or sprained their wrist or sprained their ankle? Would I tell them to just get over it and walk up the stairs? No, I'd give them time to heal. And that tends to put it in a different light, different perspective for people and help them be a little bit more understanding. Because, if your leg's broken, if your brain's broken, either way, it's going to affect every part of your life.